Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome in to another exciting episode of the Love and Lightning podcast. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus because we were busy with other stuff, but we're so glad to be back with you today. I'm Dr. Campbell. I'm here with Maestra Paula Leeper. And today we're going to talk about some interesting questions on working with yourself for your spiritual practice and things like that. So hopefully you will find it super interesting. And in the meantime, let's have Master Paula just set the tone with the prayer.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at. Just take a few deep breaths. As we begin to gather our energies, we're going to invite in the cardinal directions. Into the energies of the east direction, we call to our breath. We call to our light. We ask for the light to enter our bodies, to come in through our tonales, and we ask for the grandfather energy to come and sit with us, to come and be with us. For we need your knowledge and we need your love and we need your guidance. We ask for the energies of the west direction to come in, the place of releasing and letting go, the place of our heart, the place of fire, the place where we have our true calling. And this is the place of where we are just now coming out of the full moon as we're recording this. That place of just receiving, releasing, moving things out of the way so that we can receive more. We call to the energies of the south direction, the place that we're in at this time, the place of water, the place of our minds, the place of the little children, the childlike spirits, the childlike joy, the laughter, the emotions, going through so many emotions during the day like a child. We're meant to do that. So we invite those energies to come in as we have our discussion or our plática today, that we just let it roll in and roll out like a wave. We call to the energies of the grandmother, the energies of the north direction, the place of our body, also the place of our spirit. We ask for your guidance. We ask for your clarity. We ask for your peace. We ask for your strength, your knowledge, and your wisdom to come in and to sit with us today, to guide Dr. LA and I to speak the good words over each other, over our communities, over our families, and over this podcast. We invite in the energies of the cosmic gourd, the place of all knowledge and all wisdom, the place of earth, the great mother, the place where we have our feet, the place where we walk, the place where we rest. And we call to our own hearts, as today we're going to be investigating how to be in communion with our own self, with our own spirit, with our own hearts. Ometeo and aho. It has been a long, beautiful summer for me.
It has been, yeah, you've been very, very busy.
I've been traveling. I have spent many weeks in ceremony with Maestra BJ in Colorado, teaching a class in California, the intentional touch class. Beautiful, beautiful group of powerful healers out there. I feel like I was the student. I was really honored and blessed to sit with them. And then spending a few weeks in Virginia with my son and my daughter-in-law and my grandkids, just really being in that place, all those emotions, through the day, and being that grandmother, and doing ceremony there as well, and sometimes even in my pajamas doing limpias, and you just do it when it's needed. Mm-hmm. So yes, I've been very busy, but it's been blessed. Traveling, I feel good. I'm a little bit tired, but my spirit feels strong and feels mm-hmm. good. I did get to visit in California. I got to visit with one of my friends too. Shaman Jack. Mm-hmm. She's been on the podcast. I got to visit with her. Much needed time spent with her as well. So powerful summer. Mm-hmm. Just really beautiful. Mm-hmm. How about you?
I have been kind of working in a different way. Really expanding working with a lot of my autoimmune patients, like
Mm.
it's almost tripled in terms of volume for those clients, the neuroimmunological and the autoimmune patients, which is always interesting because it's complicated and complex, but they're the ones I love to work with the most, and they know that. If they're listening in, they know that I love to work with them because it's a really beautiful time to merge Western medicine and intentional energy together and really
Mm.
affect change. So I've been doing a lot of that. I've also been working on rearranging my space because it was long overdue. So moving bookcases and creating new cases and plowing through materials and rearranging singing bowls and just kind of changing up my space a little bit. And while this looks kind of the same as it's always been, actually what I'm staring out there is actually a little bit different. So moving some stuff around and just getting a different energy flow, and also making some connections to get some collaborative efforts going in over the next couple months for some different some sort of collaborative efforts with some other folks that will be coming on the podcast. So it's
Ooh.
looking forward to it. So my summer has been a little bit more of just I guess channeling and directing
Mhm,
my own
mhm.
energy and space versus, sending tons of it out. It's been just channeling it and honing it in so that I can move in. But it's been really good. And that super full blue moon was amazing.
Mhm, mhm.
And what I kept discovering is that everybody that's been really, really working on staying in sort of that heart space and that ascension space of with the energies was loving it. Everybody was just loving being in that energy. And it was only the folks that were still kind of going through some of the struggle points in life that got a little crazy with it. But
Mhm.
it yeah, I was surrounded by a lot of people who are just like, I feel great. This feels awesome, and that's cool because usually, historically, full moons comes up and it's like everybody's like, oh my God, it's the full moon. Everything's gonna go crazy. And this was really beautiful. And then the
Yeah.
other thing that I thought was beautiful, and I'm not going to go political, but I think everybody's kind of picked up in the last month or so that there's been a massive change in the American political climate. And I think we finally jumped a timeline. I think all this positive energy and this reinforcement of love and compassion and accepting one another and just has just built up to the point that I think the earth peoples of the earth have jumped a timeline into something much much more favorable that's honing in with Aquarian energy. So I'm actually looking forward to what's coming up instead of dreading it.
Mhm.
So that's awesome.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
awesome. But everybody picked up on the change. It was like immediate, and it's like I think we just finally jumped that timeline.
yeah. It feels
So
like we are building up power, building up momentum.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And women are starting, not just about women, but the feminine energy is starting to take its place in this process, and it's really getting solid, and I think that's great. Even some of the folks who identify as male, through this process, even you can see their feminine energy is increasing too, and I think
Mhm.
it's really really amazing because now the dialogue has changed, and it's
Right,
changed to things like love and compassion and acceptance and nurturing and taking care of each other and
mhm.
bringing us together, and that's a great message. That's a great, great message. So
I
I'm
I
charged
was
about it.
I was just I was just about to ask you what you were feeling like the feminine energy is. And I think you just said
I
it.
just said it, yeah. And
Yeah,
it's I think
and
it's fantastic. Yeah.
I find it a little differently.
Do you?
Like, yeah, I have the nurturing down. I've got the compassion down, and now it's standing in my power.
Yes, it's
It's
all
it's
about that.
it is. I feel this feminine like existence
Yeah.
that's coming up. I feel
Yeah.
it in myself. I see it in my community. I'm seeing it in not not in a gendered way. I'm
Right.
seeing it as in we are feeling hopeful and we're
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
a little more powerful. So,
Absolutely.
but absolutely for me throughout this whole summer is just walking around in my powerful existence, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense,
Mm-hmm.
and making an impact in an authentic way.
Yeah.
through love and through compassion, but also in a strong way of no, there's a boundary there. That's not going to happen.
Right.
So
There's,
I'm hoping that with the shift in the political arena that we're
mhm,
in right now, and that it is making that shift to gather that momentum so that we can continue to give that compassion and give that love to all of the countries that need it right now,
mhm,
especially for the people that are experiencing genocide right now in
mhm,
many continents,
mhm.
that momentum is not going to stop, that we're going to continue to go.
Yeah.
And so as we
Yeah.
pick up that power, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today, is
Mhm,
how we're gathering our own power so that we
mhm,
can make an impact out in the community.
mhm.
And so that can go globally, so that we can reclaim, so that we can
Yeah.
get that power back.
It's an amazing thing, and it's funny that you brought that up. That you've been kind of really, it's been about you standing your power, because that's been the
Mm-hmm.
conversation I've been having with my spirit team
Mm-hmm.
for like the last 6 months. Like, now you've got to stand in your power. Now you've got to stand in your power. And sometimes you're like, "Oh, I don't know what that means."
Yeah. What
And it's
does it
like,
mean?
stand in your power, stand in your power. And now it's like, I think I'm getting this now. I think I'm
Yeah,
getting it. Yeah. And it's really, it's amazing. It's an amazing time to be alive, truthfully, right?
truly.
And it
Yeah,
was like, the snap of a finger. It was just fantastic, but it's so welcome. And I think it's just, it's the Aquarian energies. We're in that Kali Yuga, the golden era. It's the golden age. It's time to move that forward and make it just felt by everyone, so everybody can have
I
an opportunity to feel that beauty and that fantasticness and that empowerment.
I think you need to tell us what that means.
Which one? What? The Aquarian
I don't
age or
know
the
the
Kali Yuga?
Kali Yuga. What
Kali
is
Yuga.
that?
So that's
Yeah.
in Hinduism. Back in ancient Hinduism, they typically defined eras, kind of like the Mayan calendar would go through these big giant, like 24,000 year cycles. Well, the yugas do the same thing. So it's the same language, just with regional terminology. And actually the yugas were a little bit longer than 24,000 years. And 24,000 years has to do with the precession of the planet. So it's like the zodiac going in reverse. So
Mm.
we've moved from the Piscean age, we're moving into the Aquarian age, but with that comes change and that kind of the obvious things of change, but it's also sort of the energy of that particular idea. And in ancient Hinduism, and talking about the yugas, they always talked about, going through sort of a bronze age, and then a silver age, and then a golden age. And the golden age is the culmination where everything changes. And it's this
Mm.
beautiful time of integration and empowerment and positive energy and spirituality and change. And it doesn't mean spirituality, like with a tagline, right? It's just people really embodying their own energies within themselves, and us shining that golden light from the heart space, basically, and being empowered from the solar plexus, and really making change
Mm-hmm.
in the world around us. So it's like this grand fabulous age, and it really does kind of coincide at this point with the age of Aquarius, and which we kind of know in Western astrology, the age of Aquarius is a more common thing to talk about. But they're really kind of the same in some ways. In many ways they are kind of the same thing, or this embodiment of the same kinds of ideas. And we've just been holding on to that past, that struggle and strife and
Mm.
grumpiness and inner unhappiness, and don't move my cheese, and that's mine, don't take it, and you can't have it, it's mine. It's that fear-based stuff. And now finally, man, there's a window of, like, we can just be in love and power, and it can be beautiful, and we're not going to worry about whether you're stealing my cheese or not. It's not going to matter, because there's bigger things at hand here, right?
Yeah.
So it's all cool. I just dig
Yeah.
it. I just dig it. It's nice to see it in action.
Yeah. Thanks. I learned a new word, a new way of thinking, right? Which is,
It is absolutely a new way of thinking. And
we all need these new ways to think, because our ancestors, the people that were here on the lands before us, they had things to do that we don't do, and we're doing things that they don't do.
Right.
There wasn't, our hearts and our souls are similar. However, we have different things we have to filter,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're so blessed that we can be on the Zoom call. We're not even in the same city. We can talk to so many people
Mm-hmm.
and make an effect that way.
Mm-hmm.
Where our ancestors had each other, they had creator and they had their ancestors to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have thousands of books that have been written on it and all this history that's been written, whether it's true or not, who knows, because we weren't there, right? That everything that we are experiencing comes with these extra filters now.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of what we're going to talk about today is how do we get rid of some of those things and not have to filter every single thing out by being in touch with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And I think some of that
So,
empowerment too comes
mhm,
down to realizing, because some of that, the idea of the filter is really, is that is conditioning. It's almost operant conditioning that we've kind of
mhm,
undergone as societal growth, because there were things, oh, you shouldn't do, or you ought not to do, or better seen than heard, and some of those kinds of things. And so that's kind of colored our perception of the way we view not only ourselves, but our place of importance within the world around us. Most of the time, it's that, oh, I'm just here. I'm just a cog in the wheel. I'm not that important.
mhm,
Yes, you
mhm,
are. Every soul is important. Every soul is important.
right.
And we got to buy it. We got to believe that. We have to know that greatness comes from within. And we've learned to define greatness as, oh, I've got zillions of dollars, or I'm a super famous celebrity, or I have, tons of land, or I have a massive yacht. That's kind of how we defined power, but that we need to redefine what power really is. And power is that
Mhm,
power of love and compassion for self and for others. It's what's coming in and that beautiful acceptance and transcendence. And it's that peace that you can find within by just knowing that you're worthy, and that you're important, and everyone else around you is just the same, and that we
right.
can all work as individuals and together to build a much, much more compassionate world for everything else. And then the rest of that
Yeah,
stuff kind of falls into place. It doesn't become the important thing. Money isn't the most important thing, or
right.
power, that kind of control power is not the most important
Mhm.
thing. Right. And it makes for a completely different world.
Well, let's talk about how do we get there? How do we find that
Yay.
peace? How how do we filter out social media? How do we filter out family belief systems? How do we filter and bring ourselves into reality
Right.
of the truth of where we are right now? Like I'm 57, I have these abilities, I have this capabilities. How do I come to terms with finding out who I truly am? How have you and I done that? How can
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
explain some of those tools to our listeners that maybe they're in a place where I've been before, where I didn't want to be on the planet. How did I get out of that?
Hmm.
So we're gonna talk about a few of the steps that we took.
Hmm.
It's not everything. We don't know everything. I have my experience. Dr. LA, you have your experience. Our
Hmm.
listeners have their experience. So maybe by sharing some of these things that we've done, that they can be implemented out
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
So if you're listening, take notes. These are our experiences.
Hmm.
And we're going to talk about some of the things that we use, some of the methods, some of the teachings, some of the things that we've been taught, some of the things that worked. We might talk about some things that didn't work too.
Hmm.
Um, it makes me think that it reminds me, I'll just say that social media is so much input that that's one of the things I do try to minimize, even though it's great for advertising classes and teachings but having a million followers is not my goal. My goal is to touch one person at a time, or to teach a class and touch those people. And these are some of the things that we'll be teaching. Let's talk about how we do body scanning for ourselves. You
Hmm.
said that you have lots of patients that have autoimmune.
Oh yeah.
I am sure I don't even have to ask you. This is something you teach them how to
Yeah.
do their own body scanning
Yeah.
so they can be in their own place and not remember that a doctor 20 years ago told me, and this is a true story I'm going to tell you. When I was in my 20s and I had cancer, I had a naturopathic doctor look at me and say, "You're going to be a big fat grandmother."
What?
And that stuck with me. That stuck with me for a really long time.
That person
until
needed a slap. I'm sorry. It drives me nuts when professionals say stupid things.
Yes.
Oh my
So
God.
so how do I bring myself into the present moment, even though someone planted that seed
Right.
that I would be that? I am not that. I am strong. I'm fast. I can chase grandkids. I can pick up two at a time. That's my reality. But it took a long time to get there, to
Yeah.
undo
Undo the damage.
what's a superior,
Yeah.
super intelligent person said to me. They're not
Well,
that intelligent. We have our own body intelligence. So
they don't have emotional intelligence.
that's
That's right.
Well, bringing ourselves into the reality of who we are in this moment and not who we were yesterday, right?
Yeah. And that's part of, I think, kind of what we're talking about too. And you bring up a good point about somebody in a quote superior position. If I had my wish come true for everybody on this planet, it would be that we quit pigeonholing people in this hierarchical
Yeah.
kind of thing, because that's what sets off like, oh, well, that person knows more than me, so that makes them better than me and more powerful than me, and I'm just a
No.
peon. No. I will say this is to everybody on this podcast, the same that I say to every patient. You can ask my patients and they'll say, she says this to all of us: nobody knows your body and your heart in the same way that you do. There's not a medical professional, no matter how many years of residency or training or anything else we've ever gone through. It does not matter. We are never, ever going to know you the way you do.
Yep.
And if you think it's something wrong, yes, you speak up. And if somebody doesn't get it, then you find somebody who does.
Yep.
Because it's not right for people to come out and say what that person said to you. I don't care about their degree. If they said something that to you, then what they're doing is they're basically saying, well, I know everything, and so I get to weigh in on a judgment. No, you don't.
Yep.
Medicine is not about judgment. Yes, it's about getting impression, and it's about giving advice based on what we diagnose, what we see, and all these other things. But it is not about passing judgment on another individual and pigeonholing them. That is not it.
No.
It's about finding solutions and finding answers, and not about making you feel crappy about a really bad thing that's going on. That's terrible. That doesn't help anything. Sorry, that's me on my soapbox. I'll like that.
I didn't like it either. I didn't like it at the time. And now that I am a grandmother of 7, I don't like it now either. So let's talk about, we talked a little bit about the patient relationship, but let's talk about how do we set up the space where we can really pay attention to ourselves? Like, what does that look like for you? What does that look like for me? How do we set the stage for finding our authentic self, finding out where we are in the moment? So what practices can you share that you do if you're going to do a body scan and you're going to say, this is how I'm feeling today?
All right, I have to put on my reading glasses so that I can see the paper in front of me where I took notes. So I'm going to be a nerd for a moment. So there's 2 perspectives for me in terms of body scan. And one of the things I do with patients is that as I'm going through and finding things, I educate them to like, do you feel this? What does it feel like to you? How are you experiencing this? And then we go through and I help them to understand what those sensations might, in terms of tissue. It's this tissue, that tissue, yada, yada, yada. And that's cool. But learning to do it for yourself is where you can pick up lots of things. You can pick up, from a biological standpoint, an anatomical perspective, you can pick up you can pick up sensations in your body. But one of the things I think it's really important about body scanning yourself is that you can pick up areas of resistance. And resistance can mean many things. It could be something physical. You may be experiencing it as a physical problem. But it could just be a mental block, an emotional block. It can be a spiritual block. It can be just an energetic block. It may be that negative voice in your head. So What I do when I'm scanning for me, and I try to do this as often as I can. If I'm not feeling great, the first thing out of my mouth in the morning is, man, I don't feel good today. Then I have to go through this process because I got to figure out what's going on. What am I wearing in my muscle suit, you know? First thing is breath work. I get into breath work, and it's not just deep breathing. There are better techniques you can do to really get yourself sort of in a little bit of a deeper awareness for yourself and for the your immediate area. And a lot of times what I'll do is definitely take in the deep diaphragmatic breath to really feel the belly. But as I start to exhale, I blow out like I'm blowing through a straw, and I go really slow. So it's like that, and do it super slow because that'll automatically slow their respiratory rate down, and it's going to kind of begin to calm a lot of those. If you've got adrenaline or epinephrine running through your body, the fight or flight stuff, it'll calm all that down
Mhm.
and kind of get you centered, which is where you're going with this, is being centered. And I just keep doing that. And then I start, like, where do I feel stuff? And I'll start, most of the time for me, I start at the feet and work my way up. Some people start at the head. I like to start at the feet. So I'll go through the feet, and I'll just say, okay, well, I got a little uncomfortable spot in the arch of my right foot. Okay, let me remember that. And then I keep working my way up. And I'll go through that and then try to figure out how those things are different. Then I'll go back and do it again. And I'll try changing positions. I'll wiggle and I'll adjust. I'm like, okay, does that discomfort, does it go away? Is it just a positional thing with my physical body? Because that'll start to tell me if it's a physical aspect of what's going on, or if it's something else, if it's emotional or if it's mental or spiritual and things like that. And so I just use that as a term, resistance. And then when I feel it, then I can start kind of paying attention. Now, for me, with my education and training, I kind of interpret what I feel. I understand what different structures feel like really well. And so that's not going to be an accurate thing for everybody, but you can pick up where those resistance places are. And that'll start to tell you a little bit about, if is your hip. Okay, well, let's think about that hip. Did you hurt yourself? Did you slip? Did you have to tighten onto something just? Did you trip on something? Did you knock your leg into the doorknob in midnight when you were going to the bathroom or something like that? If there's not that, then you can kind of start going, okay, well, what's attached there? Well, that's kind of at the pelvis. That's kind of where we have the seat of security, might be creativity. So there, I mean, there's all these other things. What does it feel like? What am I reminded of when I feel this sensation? Where do I feel like this is going? And that's what I'm saying. You don't have to be able to diagnose it. That's not really the point. The point is
Mhm.
finding it and feeling it so that you can start taking mental notes and hopefully some writing notes as well. I mean, to start kind of getting an idea of where your body picks up and holds resistance, because sometimes we do it over and over again. It's like I was diagnosed with peptic ulcer when I was 14 years old. That is not a good thing. Why? Because I had a constantly worried gut. Type A, needing to please and prove myself to everyone and make everyone proud of me, that kind of thing. And I held everything in my stomach. And there are physical things that go with that, but there's also emotional, and then there's energetic and spiritual things that go with that as well. And so it's learning to be aware of where we tend to hold negative energy, because everybody does it differently. Some people hold it in their tushy, their glutes, and
Mhm.
they'll, no matter how much they're relaxed. So, well, I have people on the table all the time. Yeah, I'm relaxed, and meanwhile, I can see that their glutes are so tight, they're just squeezing them tight, and they don't even know that they're doing them. Or if they're working through a specific exercise, I'm like, relax your knees, kind of let it be loosey goosey, and I still see a little squeeze tushy. And people just, we learn to tune that stuff out. So the whole point of going through this body scan is not to tune it out. It's to be able to say, oh, I do hold stuff there. I need to think about that. I need to understand, what do I feel about that? What is that telling me? So I think it's just a way of starting to become more acquainted with your physical body, but it's also a really good way to become acquainted with your thought processes about, how your body
Mhm.
holds thoughts, how your body holds emotions, how your body just holds energy, like whether it's stress energy or full moon energy or anything else.
Mhm.
That's kind of my process with myself personally.
Right. So it makes me think when you're talking, since we both we have people in our lives, our patients or clients that have so much pain that for them to do a body scan is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are like, no, I really don't want to feel all of the pain. I don't want to pay attention to it. And I think for me, that's a place of opportunity for practitioners, a place of opportunity for people like you and I, and like the healers that I spend time with, for them to hold space for you while you do your body scanning, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like my body scanning process is a little bit different, but as you were talking, I'm like, wow, people with lots of pain don't want to do this. They do not want to acknowledge it. It's too much. They're already in pain. Why do they want to say, yes, I have pain? There's that whole thought of, if I ignore it, it'll go away. It doesn't actually go away.
It never goes away. It just erupts somewhere else in a
It
different
will,
way. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So my advice with body scanning with people that have lots of pain is take it a little at a time,
Mm-hmm.
as small of chunks as you can handle. Go, yep, and I'm just going to make this up, like, yep, I have a cast on my leg, yep, my hip hurts, yep, my back hurts, yep, all that
Mm-hmm.
hurts, and just say, yes, what do you need today?
Mm-hmm.
Hey body, what do you need today? Do you need rest? Do you need some pain medicine? Do you need some water? Those are some simple things we can do if we have an excess of pain, or we have broken bones, or ripped tissue, or something that's healing. Because acknowledging that we have pain
Mm-hmm.
is sometimes a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So as a practitioner in the healing arts, right? The healing is not to take your pain away. The healing is to say, yes, yes, I have pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I want to understand it, but maybe not today. So
Yeah.
it just brought up all of that while you were talking,
Mm-hmm.
because there are people that have chronic pain and it's terrible.
Yeah. And
It's
most chronic stuff,
terrible.
there's a reason chronic pain is called a cycle,
Mm-hmm.
because that's exactly what it does.
Yeah.
It's a cycle that's usually fed by emotional or mental energy, and then you start to
Mm-hmm.
physically manifest it in the body.
Mm-hmm.
It's very real. That's not to say, oh, you're making it up. No, you're not making it up. You're just literally, your body parts are literally taking on whatever that emotional or mental
Mm-hmm.
stressor is. One of the things I do too with patients when I first start moving tissues and stuff with them is, a lot of times, like if they have really bad spasm in places, or they've got an area that's just so super tender that they're like, oh, I don't, oh, that hurts, it hurts, like, okay, so then I'll just gently put my hands there, and I'll say, okay, let's breathe into that spot. Now, those of
Mm-hmm.
us that tend to be in more metaphysical circles, we understand exactly what that means. Breathe into your elbow, breathe into the anybody that meditates understands how to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
your average person, patient, does not necessarily know how to do it. And so I teach them how to do that, so that they can start to experience what it's like to use breath to help manage some of that stuff on their own. And then we talk about how to do that at home too. So
Mm-hmm.
it's another way, or another avenue for them to become more aware, because sometimes you get, like you said, you get so much pain that it's easy just to say, I'm one big ball of pain. But
Yeah.
if we can identify exactly where it is, and we can start to understand where our body tends to hold it, that can start to tell us a variety of other things. And even if it doesn't tell us as an individual as much, working with a provider of some sort, healing provider of some sort, it can help them to help to understand what you're doing, and that can give better information so that you can problem solve through it and start to correct some
Mm-hmm.
of that. So it
Yeah.
is important just to be aware. And um, I find that also helps self-awareness. People start to express themselves better. They start to, when they realize your pain, all the time I get people goes, yes, you understand. Thank you for validating my pain. Because there's
Mm-hmm.
still this idea, we've all been gaslit so much, like you were, by the person who said, oh, you're just going to be a fat old grandma.
Mm-hmm.
We are so programmed that I did it myself, even going into surgery, when I would come out, and it would be like, oh my God, thank God there was something actually wrong you could fix. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we're
Mm-hmm.
so gaslit, especially women, to believe that we're just making it up. We're just being hysterical. but it's,
Yeah.
you're not making it up. So yeah, I'm going to help you. I'm going to validate that for you. And a lot of times when we validate that it's there, that can start that healing process too. Because somebody
Yeah.
goes, okay, I'm not making this up. It's not in my head.
Yeah.
No, it's not in your head. You know,
So
so
when it comes to body scanning ourselves, and we'll just speak to those of you that have chronic pain, whether it's physical pain, mental pain, spiritual pain, emotional pain, the acknowledgement is that little pause in there where you take that breath. So when I wake up in the mornings, I always check my mind first. I'm like, oh, how we doing up here?
Yeah, right.
Right. I've had mental opportunities my whole life. And so I always check in with my mind first, like, how is my mind working today? And if it's a good day, I'll stay up and work with the rest of it. If it's not good, I'll just go back to bed for a little while. But it's that pause of saying, okay, this is hurting or this is not good. What do I need to do? Taking that pause and saying, I acknowledge you, I see you, I feel you, and this is what we're going to do. It took me a long time to learn how to do that. Just a year ago, I was still dealing with lots of anxiety that I felt like I could not control. But going through a shamanic studies program with Maestra BJ really made me stop in the moments of that mental pain and acknowledge it. I didn't have to understand it. I didn't have to fix it. I wasn't broken. I just acknowledged it. And like you said, I breathed into it. And then I learned some tools on how to release it, how to say, okay, that is a part of me. And I love that part. A year ago, my heart rate would be 90 plus all day long, no matter what I did. Now it's like 56.
Much better.
That
Much
is
better.
that
Your
is
heart's
such a
not working so hard now. Yeah.
such a gain for me, such a gauge of health mentally, where it can show up physically, you know, because I wear this little smartwatch that tells me, hey, you're doing good, but I feel good. My brain feels good when I wake up. It's rare for me to wake up and say, I'm having a mental day today. If that does happen, I know what to do. I'm going to drink some water and I'm going to go back to bed. I'm going to take the day off. I'm going to take care of myself. So with body scanning for me, it always starts with my mind first. Where is my mental body at today? And then I'm going to ask my heart, not my physical heart, but I'm going to ask my spirit, what do you need today? Are we working with people? Are we working outside? Do we need to be in the garden? Do I need to take a long bath this morning? Do I need to go take a walk? What do I need? And so I always ask myself, what do I need before I'm going to give to everyone else? And I get up really early, hours before anyone else in the house, so that I can have that 2 to 3 hours in the morning to take care of me. And even my friends that are up early know that I'm not answering the phone at that time, because that's time for me, myself, for myself and creator. It's time for me to clean the altars, to talk with my ancestors, to talk with my guides. They're the planners. I'm the vessel, but the vessel has to be good to go, right? It's my job to take care of my body. It's my job to feed it, to love it, to honor it, to make sure that I have water, make sure I'm hydrated. That takes planning. And it starts out with checking in with my brain, and then I check in with my spirit, and then we go from there. So the body scanning for me, like you said, I start at the top and work my way down. The physical part is the last part, because I do use my body for physical work. I ask it to work physically hard by working out and lifting weights, which is all a little bit new for me. But I'm asking a lot of my body. So I need to respond to it in, I'm going to give you what you want. You give me what I want. So that's a little bit about how I do the body scanning. Is I ask, or I check in, I ask, I pause, I acknowledge, and I give it what it needs. And if we have to go to bed for the day, that's just what it is. So, and if it's, hey, we're going to eat a banana and go work out, then that's what we do. I no longer do things I don't want to do.
Yeah, and you shouldn't.
No.
Because that's another, because then we actually create resistance in the mind, the emotion, and the body. We
Mhm.
create resistance because we're angry about that, and
Right.
we resent it. Well, I had to go do that. No, you don't. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah. Everything is a choice.
It is. You have
Um,
permission.
and I'll back that up with your response is a choice.
Yes, it is.
There are things on the planet that we do not have control over, things we did not do. But how I respond to those is my responsibility.
Absolutely.
What is my part in this? So, knowing my body, knowing myself, meditating to know myself is the most important thing. So that's why I spend those few hours in the morning making sure that I'm taken care of. I need clean clothes. I need food for the day. I need breath work. I need prayer work. I need to be at my altar. I need to know. So
Hmm.
that's kind
And
of,
I was going to say, for some people too, if you're like, I don't want to lay here and do something like that. The other thing you can do is, like, if you're a person that gets up every day and takes a walk or just does something, that's a really good time. You can body
mm-hmm,
scan while you're doing those kinds of activities
mm-hmm,
too. The secret is not necessarily to be distracted by music or to be distracted by conversation or social media or things like that. Stuff that can keeps you from going within, but it is paying attention to what your body feels when you're doing stuff, and what your heart feels when you're doing stuff, what your mind feels,
mm-hmm.
and how you
Yeah,
emotionally respond to that stuff.
yeah.
Um, there's a lot of ways you can do this, but it's really about just becoming super aware and getting
Mm-hmm,
to know your own personal bodies, because we talk about physical, mental, emotional, etheric. It's
mm-hmm.
all of those bodies that we need to become familiar with, right?
Right, right. I'd be familiar with our own first
Mm-hmm.
before you and I go to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before we go and see other people, I need to know, being an empath, I need to know how I'm
Oh
feeling
yeah.
before I see that
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Because my body is a tool, and if their knee is hurting, I will instantly get a knee ache. And so I need to know that that's mine or if that's theirs.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
just how my body business works. So,
And any of you out there that think you are empathic, if that happens, sometimes Paul is right. Sometimes you physically can feel and
mhm,
pick up other people's
mhm,
ailments.
mhm,
And I've worked on that kind of a long time ago, because that happened to me so badly when I was younger, especially in this career, and it would be like, and I finally had to educate myself a little bit more and to understand. And then I learned to set up some different boundaries working with my spirit animals and things like that in my energetic field. But it's a real thing, because you don't want to pick up somebody else's juju. You can't help
right.
them, or you can't help yourself if you're constantly picking up stuff from other people, right? So.
That's a true story.
Hmm.
So, traveling around, staying in many homes this summer, many different kinds of spaces. Some are ceremonial, some are filled with children and
Hmm.
emotions and laughter and chaos, and traveling on airplanes and being in airports. I needed to know where I begin and end,
Absolutely.
because being in public places and being in other people's homes, I didn't want to pick up everyone's stuff,
Right.
but also being aware of what's around me.
Hmm.
So I sort of have like maybe like I wouldn't call it a bubble, but sort of like a wrapping around myself, like
Hmm. That's what
knowing,
I do.
knowing,
Yeah.
yeah, no, knowing who I am and walking with that strength around me, right? We talk about walking with our ancestors. Ask them, walk with me through this airport, walk with me to this airplane, be with me as I'm in my family's home. Help me to see, but not to be consumed.
Right.
So being consumed, you become someone else. So the summer I was able to stay in my own essence and my own authenticity, and not be consumed by being in other people's homes or energies or in their ceremonies or with their body pain. Um, Grandchildren, it's so wonderful because they do go through those emotions like this. And I'm making like a roller coaster. If you can't see me on YouTube, it's like this roller coaster of emotions like, oh, I'm so happy. Oh, I'm so hungry. I'm so happy. I'm so sad. Oh my gosh, that hurt my feelings. I'm hungry. We're meant to do that. We are meant to do that. We're meant to fully feel everything, but I don't want to be consumed by it. I want to be able to move in and out of my feels, in and out of my emotions, and move through them quickly. So that was really a blessing to be able to do this summer, being in so many different places, being able to have my own essence around me. And I really do attribute that to a tool of body scanning, knowing who I am, being able to bring an altar with me wherever I go, just to have gratitude of being able to travel, but really knowing who I am was the most important. And I could see the effect of that on people that I was around. That if I'm walking around and I'm not being authentic, then energy gets weird and funky. But when you walk around and you are accountable to who you are, you're walking around in your truth, you're walking as your authentic self, people are blessed by that. And I was blessed to be able to do that. I'm sort of a take it or leave it kind of person. If you don't like me, that's okay. That's your opinion. That's your business. It's not my opinion. If you like me, it's not my opinion. It's not my business either.
Right.
Whether you like me or dislike me, it's none of my business because I'm just being my authentic self. I'm not, I'm not going to walk around and be rude and ugly. My authentic self isn't that. My authentic self is loving and compassionate, but also truthful.
Right.
And I think that's appreciated in most spaces, especially in the healing arts where we are, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. If people were to come to me and come into my healing space and I'm not giving them any strength to heal with, I'm not allowing them to have any pauses with their pain, then they feel validated if we make that pause for them. If we don't give them that, then what are we doing here? Right? So I sort of went off topic a little bit about that.
It's okay. It's all related.
But it's all
it's all related. Yeah.
It's all part of being your authentic, true self. And that's what we're looking for. That's what we're hoping to help everyone to find. Start with body scanning, do your journaling, set your intention. Am I going back to bed? Am I going on with my day? What food do I need? What water do I need? What do I need to move forward? So those are just a couple of the things we were going to talk about today. Yeah. We have a whole list. We're not going to get through them all in one session.
We will not. So there will be a part 2 and perhaps a part 3. I think the next thing on the list was, how do you create a sacred space and to do your body scanning or to do your meditative practice and things like that. And that's probably because we're kind of jumping into that a little bit. So probably we can go through that one too, I would think.
Yeah, let's do it.
So how do you create your sacred space?
I get up before everyone else. Even the dog is still sleeping. So I do like to go outside early in the morning, greet the sun, let that sun and the sun's rays come in, that grandfather energy, asking for that wisdom to wake me up, and being really in gratitude for being alive. Like we were talking in the beginning of this, we're here in such a potent time in history and on the planet. So I really like to be outside. I want to see, what does it feel like outside? What does nature feel like? It's very quiet when I get up. There's birds. There might be a few little lizards rustling around. I live in the desert. So there's the creatures are outside. There's an owl that hangs out near my house. So when I go outside, I might be able to hear the owl. But connecting with nature, I check all my plants. I look at the garden, see who's doing well, who needs what. So tending to the land is really important for setting up that meditation practice. Getting to know the earth, being in nature, scanning my body during all of that. It's not something you have to do separate. You can do it all at the same time, like you were talking about taking a walk. When I went out this morning, it was the first time I was like, oh, the weather is getting a little cooler in the mornings. So it's not so hot. So when it's not so hot here, the animals will move around more too.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah. And so the earth is our altar. So that's what I like to do. What about you?
Yeah, so this is where I do things just a little bit differently. I figured out a long time ago that my space has to be a place that feels relaxed for me. And so I keep my personal altar. I actually keep it in my bedroom. And so I interact with that every day. But my whole sacred space it's kind of a process. So once I'm at, I make sure that, when I set up spaces, like I've been told you guys earlier, I've been kind of changing the room around that I'm in right here doing the podcast. And because I got started feeling like things just I needed to feng shui, man. It needed to change. Right. And when I start picking up on that energy, that's what I do. And so it starts by just cleaning and rearranging, making sure that, everything is taken care of, the thing is organized. So that's part of my process. And I do that I do that with books. I do it with other spiritual tools. I do it with my journals. I do it,
Mhm.
go through with my tarot card or oracle cards, whatever. I do all that. So I always make sure that with each day that I engage with my wolf spirit always, every day, because that's just the thing. I was blessed with feathers from one from a great horned owl and one from a hawk, and so they're on my altar as well. And
Mm.
so I have a patient and her husband that constantly send me feathers, and it's just the coolest thing. It's like, oh look, we found this. Oh look, we found that, and it's the coolest thing because the winged ones are just always giving. They're just always giving messages. It's really beautiful, and so I kind of interact with that stuff, and that may also include certain stones. Sometimes I feel the need to change the arrangement of the stones that I have there. Sometimes I feel the need to cut on my selenite lamp to make sure that it sort of cleanses things. Every day, my dogs will wake me up no matter what, especially my little one. And unlike your dog, my dogs decide when we're all getting up. That's just the way it goes. My older one, he's like, I'm going to sleep a while. But the little one's like, no, we're going, get up. So the next part of that is taking them to the park. And so we go to a park here in the town I live in, and there's beautiful trees there. There's a lake there. There are lots of other winged beings. There's birds and ducks and the occasional goose and the occasional blue heron. And, there's lots of graphs and sniffs and smells and for them. And so that's when that's when I start doing my path walking, and I do that in the same way. If I go to a labyrinth and do labyrinth walking, I actually path walk with them when it's just us and none of their friends are around, so that it's just a way that I talk through, and I'm constantly talking to spirit at that
Mm.
point, and I'm kind of talking things out. I'm talking to the earth mother, I'm talking to the universe, I'm talking to the spirit guides, and that's where we start to hammer out kind of where my focal points need to be for the day. And that's why I said you can body scan while you're walking, because I
Mhm.
pick up a lot of stuff when I'm walking. But then
Right.
I make sure when a breeze comes that I stop and just let the breeze wash over me. And then, I always speak my gratitude. If I'm really grumpy, I'm gonna start with gratitude. And I'll just start like I'm grateful for the sun, moon, and stars, and the earth mother that nourishes us all. And then I just keep going. And it starts out as a force because I'm grumpy, but
Sure.
I do it. And what I start to do by the time I get to, I'm really grateful for my dogs. Then it's like, and that's where the stuff starts to release, because that's when the love comes. I'm grateful for my dogs. I'm grateful for that I can help patients. I'm grateful that, I have everything that I need. It's just that kind of thing. And then you just start to realize how blessed you are, with life and things. And then I make sure to greet trees. There are literally a couple of trees that I consider to be friends at that park. And so the dogs know we have to walk over and we have to touch the trees and talk to the trees. And we do. We talk to the trees. And I don't care if anybody hears me talking to the trees. I don't care. It's like, we talk to the ducks as well, and the geese and the heron. We have conversations. I don't care. It doesn't matter. That's part of what it is and who I am. and then as I come back, once we get back home, then they tend to go outside. And then that's when I start taking time. I start to have, I pull a few cards to kind of orient my thoughts. And then sometimes I interact with my guides through decks as well, like specific actual conversations and stuff, to telepathic conversations. So I know that sounds weird, but it works for me, and then we just have to deal with it. But then that's the next part of it. So then I start preparing, especially if it's a work day, then I start preparing to do the things I need to get done. Or if it's a day off, then it's, then I'm okay, what do I really need to get done today? And then we start prioritizing. So it's kind of a process. And sometimes, if they wake me up in the wee hours in the middle of the night because they need to go outside, then I'll have a conversation with the moon at that time as well. I'll go out with them and I will have the conversation that I need to have with the moon, and I will listen and receive. I'll talk with the stars, if there's any other extraterrestrial beings that might be in there, I have those conversations as well. And then I come back inside, and then I go back to sleep. And then anything else that gets processed is processed through dream time. I will write down dreams. If, the ones I remember, I make sure I write those down. I have a few different journal things that I deal with. And so I write information down when I need to, and that kind of thing. So that's my process is it's not as specific, and it's not the same ritual every day, but those components are always at play every day.
Right.
Always. Yeah.
It sounds like nature is our healer.
It is. It always has been for me, even when I was little, so yeah, it's just one of those things. And I mean, I think if anybody isn't sure how to create a sacred space, I mean, just look at that word. It's a space that's sacred. It's sacred to you. And you can add things into that space that boost energy, like crystals or even stones, or, if you put cards with messages or anything, feathers, other kinds of candles, flowers, whatever it is that you do. You can put statuary. You can add stuff to that space if it's going to make your energy feel good, and it gives you kind of purpose and gives you a place to really go through whatever those steps are. And make sure your space feels safe to you. I think that's also an important thing. I mean, sometimes you're going to be in places where you don't have your space, but you need to create that safe space on the inside. So you take it with you. If you're in an airplane, you can still say your gratitude, even though you're surrounded by a whole bunch of people in a tin can at 30,000 feet. You can still do it, and you can still hold that space for yourself, and you can still have conversations with your guides or whatever you're doing. And then I just make sure that I have time. If I'm doing meditation, if I'm actually sitting in meditation or something like that, then I try not to get interruptions. So I'll make sure the ringer's off, and all that stuff. I put on noise canceling headphones so I can't hear any of it. My little dog is a meditation dog, so she's not that little, but she will come in, and when I get positioned to do meditation, she will be right there with me because she's like, oops, we're meditating. I've got to go with mom. And that's what she does. The other one, he could seriously not care less. I mean, he's just off doing his thing, And so that's kind of it. So, I mean, I think those types of rituals, are different to different people. Some people it's preparing food for the day and thinking that through, or organizing their supplies before they walk out the door. But I mean, any of those things can be, if it's meditative, if it's preparatory, if it's connectedness, any of those things can be tools for that, in my opinion. Yeah.
I think this is a juicy podcast talking about body scanning and pain and paying attention to it, and the different ways to find that sacred space within ourselves, having that altar inside. So let's know that we're going to continue this conversation on the next one, because there is a long list of things that we do want to talk about. We want to talk about setting intentions. We want to talk about the 4 directions, how we can scan our energies through the medicine wheel.
Questions you can ask yourself, and journaling, and how you visualize, working with your higher
Mm-hmm.
self or your spirit
Yeah.
self,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So these are daily practices, these are accountabilities, these are actions to take towards your own self,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can stand in your authentic self, so you can be in your own power and walk around the planet in your own essence, because when you're walking in someone else's, you're not being true to yourself. So we're going to close our sacred circle with gratitude for our breath, gratitude for our hearts, gratitude for our emotions, gratitude for our bodies, for being here, gratitude for the wisdom that we have access to, and gratitude that we even know the word gratitude and can talk about it. So many places on the planet right now are lacking in some of the opportunities that we have here. And we are very grateful for that. Um, so we give our love and our lightning to the four directions, to the four winds, to the four fires, and say Omateo.
All righty. This is going to be interesting and juicy and lovely conversation as we keep going. Thanks to everybody who give us support in however you do it. If you are watching us on YouTube, hitting that like button or the subscribe button doesn't cost you anything. It just kind of gets us in the algorithm, so it gets distributed out there so that other people can pick up on some of this information. The other part of that is on, Buzzsprout. Then thank you so much for those who support us and are generous that way. And we're so very grateful for the chance to do this and to talk some of these things out and get them out in the world. And it's opening us up to whole new worlds of things we can do and share. And hopefully it's doing the same for you. So we're very, very grateful. Thanks so much for tuning in. And we're going to come back another time and pick up where these questions left off. And it might be a nail biter between now and then. I don't know. But we're all curious. One thing I think would be great is if pop us a comment on YouTube and let us know what kind of stuff you do. Because I think it's really cool if there's other stuff you're doing that helps you set your intention in your space and do your scans or stuff like that. Share it. Let's share it. Let's get those things out there. We come up with things we do and talk about that, but you may have the magic thing that somebody else goes, oh, I can do that. That would be
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
So share it. Let's share it. Let's get that message out there. Let's get all this beautiful divine feminine energy just roaring through our universe, or at least our corner of space. That would be really awesome. And it's going to take us great places. And I can't wait to see what's coming up next. So thanks so much to everybody. Bye.
bye.